a very famous photo related to the exploding whale incident that occurred in Oregon, USA, in 1970. The explosion not only stirred up a sea area but also caused a worldwide sensation. So why was just a whale explosion so earth-shattering and terrifying to such an extent? Guess what you? Because we will travel back in time together to 1970 in the peaceful town of Florence, which witnessed one of the strangest events in history.
The horrific whale explosion left the entire beach submerged in a stench of rotting blubber.
But before getting into the main content, please support the channel with a like and a follow to help it grow even more. Let's explore today. It all started on a cold autumn day, November 9th, when the residents of Florence were startled to discover a giant, unexpected guest washed ashore. It was a whale weighing up to 8 tons and 14 meters long, equivalent to a school bus. It lay on its back, basking under the autumn sun,
just about a mile south of the train station.
But hidden behind its still appearance was a strong, foul odor, signaling that decomposition had begun. Clearly, measures needed to be taken to handle this uninvited guest quickly, before things got out of control. At that time,
Beach management fell under the jurisdiction of the Oregon Department of Transportation, and they were the ones who had to shoulder the responsibility of dealing with this giant lying conspicuously on the beach.
But this was truly a difficult problem. Whales washing ashore in Oregon were extremely rare. No one remembered the last time, perhaps back in the distant year of 1910, how a whale had been handled. They began considering feasible options. The first was to bury the whale in the sand. It sounded reasonable, but then they worried that high tide would wash away the sand, exposing the decomposing carcass. The second option proposed was to cut up the whale and transport it elsewhere. However, the logistical challenges in odor handling were truly beyond imagination. Would they have enough specialized tools and, more importantly, enough manpower and courage to carry out this smelly task? The final option, letting the whale decompose naturally, was dismissed almost immediately. Because everyone understood that the process would be very slow, posing many hygiene risks and, of course, accompanied by a lingering, haunting stench. At that moment, a bold, even somewhat reckless plan was proposed: to blow up the whale.
They wanted to use explosives to obliterate the giant carcass and restore the beach's cleanliness. But who would have thought a reckless decision would inadvertently lead to a series of tragic mistakes,
turning the story of the beached whale into an unforgettable legend of Florence.
News of the giant beached whale and the unprecedented plan of the transportation department spread like wildfire. Curious crowds flocked to the beach, eager to witness the decomposing giant firsthand.
The media also quickly arrived, hoping to capture unique footage,
recording a one-of-a-kind moment in history.
Among them was Paul Linman, a young reporter who thought he was covering just another ordinary event. But no, he was completely mistaken. The scene before his eyes and what was about to happen turned his assignment into an unforgettable experience. The Oregon Department of Transportation was now facing a literally stinky problem.
The whole world was focused on Florence, with a nearly 14-meter-long, 8-ton whale carcass lying prominently on the beach.
So how would they handle it, and which option was feasible? Would it go according to plan? Jacques Taunton, the lead engineer in charge of this mission, excitedly and confidently stated, "Explosives have solved countless problems in the past, and I'm sure this time will be no different. We're grappling with as we without leaving the rest for seagulls, crabs, and other scavengers to clean up." After consulting with the U.S. Navy and ammunition experts, a decision was made. They would use half a ton of explosives. And then, the fateful day arrived, amid the tension enveloping the town of Florence.
Experts began carefully placing 20 boxes of explosives, each weighing 25 kilograms, around the whale.
They also cordoned off the area within a 500-meter radius from the whale, ensuring the safety of the curious onlookers anxiously watching every move of the authorities. Everyone was curious to know what would happen, whether the plan would go as smoothly as the experts had calculated.
At that moment, standing before the camera, Jack Taunton, the mastermind behind the whole plan, confidently explained, "Our plan was to use explosives to push most of the whale carcass out to sea, with the remainder to be carried away by the tide.
The explosives would turn this massive carcass into small pieces suitable for seabirds to eat. Best plans are no match for heaven."
While everyone was anxiously waiting for the live broadcast of the destruction,
a man driving his newly purchased Oldsmobile stopped. He claimed to have experience with explosives and immediately warned the authorities that they had used too much. With that amount of explosives,
the whale wouldn't just be pushed out to sea but would be torn into hundreds of pieces flying everywhere. As soon as the warning ended, Jack Thornton immediately refuted it.
He asserted that everything was under control and the plan would proceed as scheduled.
Ultimately, despite the delayed advice, the destruction proceeded according to the original plan.
The firing order was given, everyone just waited for the explosion. The warning siren sounded, the tension reached its peak. At exactly 3:45 p.m., the bombs exploded simultaneously,
sending a 30-meter column of smoke and blood into the sky,
looking as if someone had exploded a giant barrel of tomatoes.
Next, a column of pitch-black smoke billowed up densely.
The pungent smell of gunpowder enveloped a large area. Then from the thick smoke, sand, rocks, and whale flesh shot out like a volcanic eruption, falling like rain on the crowd who were gaping at the horrifying scene. People panicked when they realized that instead of small pieces suitable for seabirds, as Mr. Kisathonchen had said, huge chunks of whale meat were whizzing toward them. Everyone frantically ran away.
Screams echoed everywhere. The reporter's voice panicked and urgent. When the chunks of meat started hitting the ground, we realized,
"Oh my God, we could die here from whale blubber."
Even more terrifying was the intense stench of whale organs spreading everywhere with the black smoke.
That smell was many times worse than before the explosion occurred. Amid the chaos, the worst damage was to a car. Though 140 meters from the scene, the car couldn't escape the storm of whale blubber and debris from the explosion. Ironically, the poor Oldsmobile's owner was the one who had warned the authorities about the amount of explosives. He could only helplessly watch his beloved car turn into a pile of scrap metal under the rain of whale blubber. It was the wonderful car he had just bought at Dunham's. It was a hell of a deal. Fortunately, no one was injured. However, the whale explosion horrified the entire world. The state of Oregon later had to compensate the full value of the car in front of hundreds of international media cameras. A few days after the event, John Thornton returned to the scene to survey. Whale debris was still scattered everywhere. Whale blubber covered everything in white, making Florence Beach look like a real battlefield at that time. In Linman's words, the explosion had blown whale blubber far beyond any imaginable limits. The explosion also created a huge deep hole on the beach. Since only a small part of the whale was destroyed by the explosion, the remainder was handled in the traditional way of burying it in the sand.
Smaller pieces of blubber were collected, though it's unclear whether they were discarded or buried together.
The seabirds that should have feasted on the abundant meat instead scattered in fear after the explosion.
For a long time afterward, they didn't dare approach this area anymore.
Equally haunting was the terrible stench of decomposing whale carcass that permeated every centimeter of the beach space for a long time, making few people interested in coming here to enjoy the sea view. In the mid-90s, reporter Paul Lineman contacted Jock Thornton to conduct an interview, hoping to hear him share about this memorable event. However, Thornton naturally refused to appear on camera. He still believed his handling method was correct and the explosion was just an unfortunate accident. As time passed, Florence Beach gradually regained its former beauty. Only the terrifying memory of the whale explosion remained intact.
Paul Lyman, a reporter from ACA, said,
The incident reflected both the strange and unique aspects, but more importantly, it became an expensive lesson for the Oregon authorities. In 1979, when 41 other whales washed ashore on the southern coast of Florence, the idea of blowing them up with explosives was quickly rejected. Instead, they chose the safer option of burning and burying the unfortunate whales. And to this day,
Oregon's official handling method in similar cases remains burying whales in the sand.
and as a way to acknowledge past mistakes, the people of Florence decided to name the town's newly built amusement area the Exploding Whale Memorial Park. To commemorate the shocking event that occurred over 50 years ago, a name that is both humorous, satirical, yet equally dignified. Perhaps everyone understands that, whether they like it or not, that whale explosion has become an inseparable part of Florence's history. And that explosion may have left a mess on the beach, making the Oregon government a laughingstock for the whole world. But at the same time, it unintentionally created a unique story about whales, an internet masterpiece, and a legend in the hearts of Florence residents. This one-of-a-kind explosion has also become a memorable lesson for those who believe explosives can solve every problem. The story reminds us that sometimes seemingly simple solutions lead to the most unpredictable consequences. And most importantly, always listen to sincere advice, even if it ruins your grand plan. Because it might just be the salvation that helps you escape unexpected disasters.
What do you think about the Oregon government's handling of the situation back then?
Share your thoughts with us by leaving a comment below.
And don't forget, before you leave, like and follow the Conha channel to discover many more fascinating stories.
And now,
we bid you farewell and look forward to seeing you in future videos.
If the veil stirred, subscribe and meet the next encounter.